What do you think of when you see Olympia, Washington? State capital, punk music scene, logging town? Something that I think about is the concurrent crises the city is facing. These are climate change, the housing crisis, and street safety. The city faces risks from climate change and sea level rise because by 2030, the sea level will rise by at least 6 and as many as 12 inches. This would mean that a once in every 100-year flood event could occur every other year and cost the city about $40,000 in damages every time. But the city is taking action. In 2018, the city of Olympia and adjoining localities adopted a goal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to 45% below 2015 levels by 2030 and 85% by 2050. In 2022, the city adopted another goal locally to lower community-wide emissions to 59% below 2019 levels by 2030 and net zero by 2040. But the city is not on track to meet these goals. In Thurston County, the second largest source of emissions is transportation, and 90% of those come from on-road vehicle travel. Vehicle miles traveled have remained above 2035 targets, and a dip during the pandemic did not persist. In addition, the housing crisis. The city and state are both in a housing crisis, and Washington only has about one affordable home for every 5 that need one. Olympia is growing, and its population is expected to grow from 57,000 currently to 70,000 by 2040. The roughly 20,000 new residents over 20 years may find it hard to find housing because the city will need 13,000 more housing units by that time. But the city has only been permitting an average of 350 units every year, falling about 50% short of the 600 it needs every year to meet its goals. And finally, street safety. About 15% of all pedestrian and bike collisions occurred on an arterial street in the downtown core, despite making up only 1% of the city's total lane miles. This is maybe because the downtown core is an older street grid, but has 2 major arterials, State Ave and 4th Ave, running through them. This is important because 85% of jobs are held by people commute in, and because the city is the state capital and its biggest employment sector is public administration. So this begs the question, should the city be a destination or a home? Well, if you look at the city parking survey, about half of the land in downtown Olympia is dedicated to surface parking. Looking at the numbers, it's no surprise that it was essentially a gigantic parking lot, has some of the most dangerous streets in the city. The same parking study also found that those parking spots are only about 58% occupied at the peak hour, meaning that downtown is oversupplied for what it needs. These tensions confront downtown Olympia. Is downtown a place to drive, to park, and go shop? Or is it a place to live, enjoy, and thrive? The problems facing downtown also represent the biggest opportunities for it to change and adapt. The city is primed for its next transformation. The COVID-19 pandemic saw many businesses closed, but many have opened. The time for this conversation is also now, because the city is currently updating its comprehensive plan, where it will plan for the next 20 years of growth. It's called OLI 2045, and it completes the process throughout 2024 and will complete in 2025. Climate change is accelerating, and action must be taken now to mitigate its worsening effects. The conversations about these tensions is not new. Many cities were built on modernist principles and Euclidean zoning, which separated uses into separate spheres: residential, commercial, and industrial. Modernists like Le Corbusier and others proposed a sanitized, radiant city in which a car would take you from one place to another and uses would be spread out over a large distance. Their vision is bad for the environment, for social connections, and for livability. In contrast, Jane Jacobs wrote in her 1961 book, The Death and Life of Great American Cities, that vital cities have marvelous, innate abilities for understanding, communicating, contriving, and inventing what is required to combat their difficulties. She proposed that cities should be vibrant, organic, and full of street life. These mixed-use neighborhoods are often the most desirable parts of cities, where you have shops on the street and units above. Olympia experiences this same tension. Should its downtown be dense and walkable, or a pit stop on your way home? For this project, I was able to sit down with some small businesses to hear about what experiences they've had and what improvements can be made. These conversations included small businesses, city and state officials, the Port of Olympia, organizations, and locals. There's much more than I can cover here, but I wrote about it in my paper, and it's posted on this project's website. I sat down with some small businesses to hear what they do and why they chose to do it in downtown Olympia. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Alden, and I own Underhill Plants.
My name is Jennifer Gaona, but I go by Jen. I am an owner of a queer barbershop in downtown Olympia.
My name is Alex. I am a semi-professional drag performer. I am the Capital City Queen, the drag matriarch of Olympia. I dress up in elaborate costumes, wigs, and stage makeup, and I dance around for money from other people. The dancing and the performing is just part of it, of course. With any art form comes a lot of behind-the-scenes work as well, costume making, hairstyling, learning the art of makeup as well.
Why Olympia? Why downtown Olympia?
It still has that like Main Street kind of feel. There's a lot of local businesses owned by real human beings that are unique and weird and fun. I get a lot of support for being open, and visibility is really important to me because I didn't see people like me existing successfully when I was a kid, and I wish that I had. And I'm transgender, and I know there are a lot of places where I couldn't have opened a business the way I did, or I wouldn't feel as comfortable operating or being out.
I just was really looking for a cool area that looked fun and funky and interesting, and I actually just kind of drove through the neighborhood. When I first found this property, I drove through and kind of saw the whole downtown area. There was an energy, a buzz. It kind of senses like up and coming, I guess.
I also asked what they think Olympia needs.
Like there kind of isn't much local business marketing that I have seen or that I have been brought to my attention, that there's like resources to say, hey, there's a business down here now.
As a drag matriarch, as a person with multiple drag children, and even a drag grandchild, it's important for me to ensure that I am showing local venue owners, showing local business owners that drag is something that's respectable, it's something that can bring great asset to their business, and that it's valuable to invest in and put energy forth into creating and allowing queer spaces. And so a lot of what I have had to do for my drag career and for helping create a legacy for my drag children is rehabilitating the image of drag performers in general, even if it's just for a night, even if it's just at a drag show, you know, or a dance party like I do at the Gastropub occasionally. That's important, and it's important that we do that, especially since, you know, as you've mentioned, there isn't a dedicated queer space. We have to take advantage of those microcosms of queerness and queer space that we do create, and that the queer magic that happens in those spaces, and we have to be respectful of them so that we can continue to have them.
There's such a perception that downtown is this sort of rough and tumble place that's unsafe, but Olympia is like, I've been in Los Angeles, and like it kind of makes me laugh sometimes that people are scared of sweet little Olympia. Oftentimes the folks that are outside that folks don't want to see are just people who are dealing with crisis. I have not had any experiences with any of the transient community that have ever damaged or created problems for my business. So when the outside community from this suburban area surrounding us is like, oh, I could never be out there, there's just too many homeless people, or we're always scared to come down here, we have to get out of here before it gets dark because we don't want to see the houseless folks. One, it's just not what is happening down here, and two, you know, I think that speaks to the fact that we could use a bit more resources in some of those areas. But you know, downtown is a really fun, safe, happening area now. If it was ever like that at one time, I mustn't have lived here, because my experience with downtown Olympia has been cute and vibrant and friendly and enjoyable.
I would like the future and the ability for drag queens to be able to operate, to be considered in that discussion as well, you know? I would like for it to not just be drag queens and kings and performers doing all of this work to uplift businesses, but also have those businesses uplift us as well, which I think is sometimes the part that is often missing. Well, I really do feel like we need some sort of queer space, some sort of dedicated queer space that's focusing on safety and providing just a space for queer people. It sounds so redundant all the time, but just a space for queer people to gather and to be able to be themselves and not have to worry about, honestly, like straight people and straight culture taking over and harassing us. And until that happens, I think we're kind of going to be at this awkward situation where we're always just kind of creating like passing moments of queerness and passing moments of queer magic, as opposed to like really fostering and engaging in our queer community.
So, you know, to think that queer people are not somebody that you can count on, surprise.
I then went to Arts Walk and asked locals a simple question. What do you think downtown Olympia needs?
What does it need? At this moment, it needs some sun. But besides that,
It's hard to say because I like this town a lot already.
Yeah, we've only lived here for about 5 months now, but part of what drew us here is downtown. So the culture, I think just all the places that are out of business, if we could get more small businesses, the better.
I think it needs more playgrounds for like the children and like more bookstores for the book readers. And I think it also needs more dog places for the dogs too.
I think downtown Olympia needs more public bathrooms and water fountains.
Yeah. Anything else that helps, I think, the community to come together. And I think more than anything, though, it'd be anything that helps the homeless population here.
I think lots and lots of spaces to just exist without having to pay for things is super important. In any city, you need third places.
More music stores, more boutiques.
All ages music spaces, I think, are really important.
Biking infrastructure. I'm a big cyclist, and there's a little bit here with just some painted bike lanes, but I think it'd be nice if there were some, maybe shut down a street would be a dream world where you have one that's just for bike passage only or something like that, or get rid of some of this parking and make protected lanes. I think that would be a big deal. I know parking is always kind of a challenge downtown, and if you make it easier for people to come down here without cars, I think that would be a big improvement.
Less cars. We need to close some streets and make walking streets. And yeah, less cars, more bathrooms.
Do you feel safe bicycling in downtown Olympia?
Sometimes. I think definitely like 50% of the time I feel safe. At nighttime, it does not feel safe at all. I feel like it definitely gets kind of dicey. People will kind of just ignore you.
more parks.
And parking.
Affordable housing. I love it to have more art that's based in community-based learning.
More community arts kind of spaces. And
I think downtown Olympia could use a little bit more vibrant festivals like we do today that bring in different people's cultures and ideas and experiences.
Anything that's more welcoming to LGBTQ plus or people of color, things like that. I just think that's something that our town could use more of.
I think we need a port that is a little bit different than how we have set it up now, that's more focused on land and less on like economic resources going in and out so heavily, especially forestry.
I think more accessible roofs, especially coming from Procession of the Species. It'd be nice if there were some more opportunity to use that space that's up high.
Some like rooftop decks or something?
I think that would be a really good use. Especially for the restaurants. It'd be great if they could have rooftop patios.
Of more affordable options that are open later instead of the whole town closing down at 8 or 9.
It needs more small food vendors late night.
Oh, I don't know, even like 8 o'clock. It doesn't have to be super late at night, but some things it's like, if they close at like 2 or 4 and, if you get off work or something like that and you want to go and do something after that, it'd be nice to have a couple extra hours.
And like a not expensive restaurant, like a diner, something that's open late like the Reef used to be. I think this town's already got a lot going for it. I think that's part of what we love about this is it has already a lot of good things going for it.
I'd like to see it diversified with more people from the community helping to create what Olympia is, because this is our city.
I also sat down with one state official to hear what she's doing to address the housing crisis.
Hi, my name is Jessica Bateman, and I'm one of the 2 state representatives for the 22nd Legislative District for the state of Washington. I'm passionate about housing because I can relate to the struggles that people are going through, because I myself have been housing insecure as a young person. I experienced bouts of being unhoused. I was growing up in a home environment that was very unstable, and as a result of that, was unhoused a number of times. I started looking at the broader picture of, what is the underlying cause of our homelessness crisis. And when I looked into that, found research in that, I realized that we aren't building enough housing to keep up with population growth. And so when you're not building enough housing prices go up, both in the sale price of homes and also how much landlords charge for rent. It's a supply and demand dynamic mix where we have not enough housing for the people that are there. And the folks who are impacted the most quickly are individuals that are low income, individuals of color, and individuals that have other mitigating effects like having a behavioral health issue or healthcare issue. So many people don't have access to affordable housing. They're currently spending a third or half of their income on their housing costs, and that's continuing to grow. People don't have the opportunity to find or buy a first-time home. First-time homeownership is only affordable in a handful of counties, and they're all on the eastern side of our state where the job growth is not occurring. Young people, we know, want to live in livable, walkable communities in areas where there's plentiful, opportunities and jobs and economic development. They don't have to drive an hour to and from work like I saw my mom do when I was a young person. So we need to fundamentally change this dynamic where we're not building enough housing for population growth. There is really no way for us to address our climate goals unless we address it through land use. In Washington, about half of our carbon emissions come from vehicle miles traveled, people getting around. And so we have to be able to make it easier for people to walk to work, bike to work, take the bus, take mass transit. We have to have a future where we're creating livable, walkable neighborhoods where it's not a bad word to say that we want to have enough housing to keep up with population growth. Building housing isn't bad. We need to be yes to housing in general, all kinds of housing, low income housing, market rate housing, even higher income housing, because there's something called the filtering effect. When you have market rate housing can open up and someone moves into that wherever they lived before, the person that the lower income moved into that. There's this kind of like leapfrog effect. Every single person needs a stable home. Knowing where you're going to live and not relying on other people having to couch surf and the uncertainty that comes with all of that. That uncertainty creates so much stress for a person, and unnecessarily so. Everyone deserves that. Everyone needs that. And right now it's out of reach for so many people. In order for us to forge a path forward, we have to have people talking to us about how important this is. We need young people to get involved. But fundamentally, we have to be able to build enough housing to keep up with population and job growth. And that's something that younger generations have a definite stake in. And I hope that they get involved and voice their opinion and values, and that we have more people that are in office that can advocate for those things too.
My analysis led me to 4 recommendations. The first is improved programming for events like Arts Walk, which are some of the most popular events of the year, and the city should offer them more to pedestrianize streets like this in a First Friday event during summer's months. So every First Friday, there'd be an Arts Walk. This would increase sales not only for businesses, but also foster social connection. Second, they should have safer street designs downtown, because downtown is bisected by 2 major arterials, State Ave and 4th Ave, and these streets should be put on a road diet. This would mean skinnier streets, slower speeds, and fewer collisions, while increasing space for greenery and pedestrians. Third, there should be structural changes, because downtown Olympia is currently represented by 2 organizations, the ODA, the Olympia Downtown Alliance, a business nonprofit, and Olympia DNA, the Downtown Neighborhood Association. The ODA is a nonprofit business group and can continue to represent businesses, but should not be the neighborhood association representing the people who live downtown. Only one neighborhood association should represent the voices of downtown residents. There should also be a public plaza program. that the city should seek to fill parking lots, vacant lots, and other spaces downtown, like the Artesian Well, which is a prime candidate for what could be a lively and inviting public plaza downtown. Previous efforts to revitalize this space have not been successful, but that does not mean that we should not keep trying. It's right now next to a parking lot, and this is not optimal or productive use. Finally, there should be enhanced business outreach. A common complaint from small businesses was that communication from the city is lacking. There's formally a position for a small business liaison, and this position should be reinstated to better communicate with businesses downtown. Some of the new businesses I spoke to also felt that they had received almost no help from the city when they got started. Improvements could include a new business packet that would set up people for success. Downtown is full of potential. We've seen what it could look like, but it faces coinciding climate, housing, and street safety problems. It needs to confront these questions and confront the tension between whether it should be a place to drive or a place to live. Throughout its history, downtown Olympia has undergone many transformations, from logging town to state capital, punk music scene, port, industrial area, and residential neighborhood. As we look ahead, we have the ability to shape what it will be next. What do you think it should look like?